Let's all scream. Let's all scream. Scream, scream, let's all scream.
Hi everyone, welcome to Let's All Scream. I'm Shehlaa Ali,
And I'm Saleh Al Braik.
And I'm Hassan Al Marashi.
and thank you for joining us on our latest episode. How are you guys?
I'm doing well. I have started leave this week for 1 week, so I am in bliss, even though it hasn't been
Can you
completely.
Just give
explain
it-
to me what does leave in this pandemic look like?
It looks like still being at home, not traveling anywhere, still answering emails. Basically, the only difference is I am not opening my laptop. Actually, no, I even had to do that once. So it looks exactly the
Exactly
same,
the same?
as
Look,
working from home.
I wouldn't jinx. I wouldn't say that just so you don't jinx yourself just yet, because last time he tried to take off also, and then he ended up one day in he ended up getting a bunch of work emails
That I
and
had
then
to, like it was a work emergency. I just had to.
So you were dragged back into...
he was.
Yeah.
So I'm like, give yourself a few days. Make sure you've actually well adjusted into your leave before you say okay.
But wait a minute. If he's going to wait a few days until he adjusts, isn't that when you go back to work?
Saleh.
just leave me alone, okay? I just need a few days off, please.
What about you, Saleh?
Doing well. I think I realized something that my aunt pointed out the other day or during the weekend. She was basically commenting about how everyone's going back to normal, back to their lives, and then she, I think, like low key called me out, and she was just like,
Why?
because I think I told her about something. I was like, oh, do I go here? Do I not go here? And then she basically looked at me and she was like, well, I mean, you barely go out at all right now, so your life's pretty boring at the moment. And I'm just like,
Ouch.
I'm just like, what? And then I realized that I think I got so used to being indoors and creating a schedule indoors that I don't that I forgot how to go out again, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I'm not I don't remember the last time I caught up with a friend in a coffee shop or a restaurant or even went out to a mall. I literally visit you guys.
Yeah.
And then on the occasion, obviously I go to work. But other than that, it's literally just at home at every day.
Yeah. That's the thing, is it's the same thing with us, and like literally we've been just at home. I don't even think Hassan has gone. Oh wait, we did go out last week. Yeah.
We went out for a very exciting
We
appointment.
said.
Did we say
Yeah,
that last
Yeah,
said
we
it
mentioned it last time.
mentioned it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're still like
In awe.
We're still running off the rush of
The high.
the high.
Yeah, but it's,
sorry to interrupt, but you guys, to our listeners, you're probably hearing birds in the background. For some reason, every time we sit down to record, all the wildlife outside our house decides to burst into song. So
I think they want to
apologize
be
for that.
participating also.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think it's a nice ambiance. It makes you feel like we're in a beautiful, lush greenhouse, sitting with birds flying overhead. But yeah, I just wanted to address that so people don't think we're like playing bird songs as a background.
It's birds.
It's actual birds.
It's roosters. It's ducks. You've got everything over here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I got used to. I think I just got used to staying at home. Like staying at home has become my comfort zone, and I'm not mad about it. Like I used to be, but I am an outgoing person.
Yeah.
But it's just that I found comfort in my own company, I think, and then I just I think I'm gonna enjoy it a little more. I never managed to really get to enjoy my company because I've always been moving from work to meeting with friends, to going out with friends, to doing more work. So I
Yeah.
never really was like, oh, okay, I'm in my room or in the house, what do I do? But now I got to enjoy my own company, so I kind of like it.
You like it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. let's see
Yeah.
when that will change. But for now, I'm okay. I believe.
Okay.
I just sat at home the whole weekend.
With me, I've actually just been also similar to you guys. I've just been at home and just been, to be honest, I start my day now every day the same. And even Hassan yesterday asked me, he's like, "Are you still doing your yoga?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I still do it." So that's how I've been starting my day.
Yeah.
And I have noticed that the days that I don't, I feel like all over the place. I feel like there's no structure. And another thing I've also noticed, and this is going to be the subject for today, is faith. And I've noticed that, for example, I've spoken before about my anxiety, and one way I've really found that I can calm myself is through prayer. And I noticed that the days that I don't pray on time, or if I missed it and I'm like rushing quickly, especially if like the baby is like and just not in the mood, or just cranky sometimes, it creeps up again. And then I don't know why, and I'm like, why am I feeling this anxiety coming back? And then lo and behold, I'll sit there and reflect at the end of the day, and I'll notice that, hey, my prayer wasn't the quality I wanted, or it wasn't on time, or something like that.
Yeah.
And so and that's where I wanted to bring up and open up this subject and see what you guys do with faith, and with when
The
you have
journey.
trouble, when you have trouble connecting.
When it comes to faith, I think that with every person, it's like Hassan would just mention. It's a journey. It's never something that you are, I would say, content with from the
Constant?
get-go.
Yeah.
And it's not constant. It changes. I'm not ashamed to say that my journey with faith has been something that I've come and went back on. With faith, I think the journey for me personally was it was a two-way street. I would drift away from it, and then I would go towards it, and it differed across moments in my life. If I were to kind of analyze my own journey from growing up,
Right.
Yeah.
I grew up in a household that was, I would consider, liberal to a certain degree. There was conservative values, but then there was also, we were quite liberal in the sense of I wasn't forced to, think a certain way.
Yeah.
I was more taught to explore, in the sense of, if you have questions, ask. But that was in my household, personal
Okay.
household. So for me, something that my mom realized when I was really young was, I think even before I was a teenager, when I was really young, I kept on telling my mom, so how do we, what does prayer have to do with faith? What is our connection to God? Why are other people praying in different ways?
Yeah,
And this is me
right.
as a kid. I always had this fascination with when it comes to faith, because I felt like it was a connection beyond who you are, beyond
Right.
your physical being. And I always had this, and we always had people from multi-faiths as family friends. So it was always something that I was always fascinated by. And then growing up, of course, I had, I think we all have relatives, specifically from this part of the world, where they are on the complete other spectrum of faith, in the sense that it's more shoved down your throat.
Yeah. Everyone has their own different approach.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
aunt or uncle or distant
Oh,
relative.
totally. I can totally
You know?
relate.
And now just to put everyone in perspective, I grew up in a household where we're all boys. So we it's me and my brothers, and then obviously my mom, my dad. And so I didn't see it from a faith from a female perspective, which maybe Shehlaa, you can shed some light on during this topic. So I'm going to speak from a male perspective. So we were always kind of, yes, told, taught in school and taught in the household what is the principles of our faith, what we should do, the prayer, 5 times,
Yeah.
Friday prayer, etc., values of our faith. and that we need to strengthen that faith and that connection. But the thing is, I felt like whilst growing up, I felt like if ever I had to question something, because I tried to question people that weren't my parents. What I mean by that is I went to, like, my closer relatives, and I asked them just general questions. And one question I remember asking, which, like, I think scarred me, was, how do we know we're the right faith? Because there are so many others. And, as a
Yeah.
young, I think I was like 10 or 9 at the time.
I think we've all asked
Yeah.
that question. Even I have.
And the response I got was, in faith, we never ask, we just do. And that set me, like, I think that specific answer set me into this whole, like, stubborn journey of, no, I'm going to find out, like, حتى أحس أصلا أظن that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to ask. We're supposed to, because how can you believe in something if you don't understand it? And that's what I
Yeah.
feel like faith is. And so it was, and I will discuss this more, but for me, it was very much a back and forth journey whereby I've gone stages where I wasn't praying, and I wasn't,
Yeah.
I was still following the same values as in, like, fasting
Yeah.
and other things. But when it came to the prayer, it was throughout my life something where I would have a phase where I would do it, and then I would have a phase where I would stop, and there were reasons behind that,
Yeah.
which we can discuss. But at the moment where I am right now, alhamdulillah, like, I do feel my connection with my faith is very strong at the moment, and I am practicing and committing to my prayers daily, and so I'm in a much better place right now. But whatever I had issues with faith was more of a mental struggle than the struggle with faith itself.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like an insight, but we can definitely go into it deeper as the episode goes along.
Yeah, and something I wanted to touch upon. So obviously, what you're talking about, Saleh, by faith, you mean it's particularly for you tied to your religion, which is Islam.
Yeah.
As is the case for both of us. But I mean, faith in general, if you talk about it, not just from a religious aspect, but also in terms of, just spirituality and faith in things working out, or things, or just believing in a higher power of some sort.
Yeah.
I think we all struggle with that, and our faith wavers from time to time. There's a couple of things I want to get into, but just to touch upon what you said about faith being shoved down your throat, particularly in the form of religion. So I've had that growing up. So the way it worked with my family was I grew up in a very religious household. To the point where there was so many things forbidden that as I grew older, I would look for those things outside of the house.
Yeah.
And they'd be like that much more intriguing to me.
Yeah.
And they weren't very, normalized.
Yeah.
So I would look for things that were not allowed in my house. It's like with, candy, let's say.
Yeah.
If you don't allow your kids to have candy at home,
Yeah.
as soon as they go to a birthday party or a friend's house,
They're
what's the
gonna-
first thing they want? They want candy.
Yeah.
So it was similar with me, and I think that's the thing. It's like, but then when I speak to you, Shehlaa, and when I hear about how you grew up, I think your parents had a very different approach to religion and to faith. It was more coming from a place of, we need you to understand that
Yeah.
this is, why this is the way it is.
Yeah. So that with my parents, especially my father, he would actually, even when it came to the hijab and when it came to prayer, fasting, he would sit down and explain to us why we do what we do, or why we have prayer 5 times a day, why we have fasting during Ramadan. And he would explain it to me in depth, or try to relate and bring it in a way that we can relate from a different, as children. And for me, with my parents, it was nice because, for example, I'll say with the hijab, he would tell us okay, you wear the hijab for this reason and this reason, but at the end of the day, I can't force you to do that. But you have to know that this is your responsibility and you're the ones that, if you're going to take that step, then you have to deal with
Yeah.
the consequences that come with it. And that came with everything, not just with religion and faith, but that's the way that both my parents
Raised you
raised
guys.
me.
And mashallah, your household is all girls.
Yeah.
So like your dad, to think in that way was
Yeah.
it's really nice.
Yeah, and I think that's a really nice way of doing it. Like with me, so my parents in their early on in their marriage, and when they had so I'm the youngest of three. I have two
Yeah.
older sisters, as you guys know. By the time so in the start of their marriage, they were not, particularly my mom was not like super religious, but then by the time I was born, they had gone through some difficulties that, especially with my mom, uh, gave her this like spiritual awakening. I would say that's the only way I can describe it, and she like dove head first into her faith and like really found peace and understanding and a lot of knowledge that she gained from it.
Yeah, enlightenment.
Yeah, exactly. And she was like, so when I was growing up, she was in this period of her life where she feels she's gained all this knowledge and she just wanted to share it. And she was so keen for us to understand that, look, this is like so amazing and this is so wonderful. But we just couldn't see it that way because, like we said, faith is a journey. And as much as you are in a particular phase in your life or you're at a particular point in that journey, you can encourage others to come along with you, but you can't force people. You can't pull, you know what I mean? It's like, it's very individualistic. It's something that's specific to each individual person. You can't it's not a one size fits all.
Yeah.
It's just not. And so I think that's for me where the struggle was. And now growing up, I'm finding myself relearning a lot of the stuff that my mom probably taught me growing up, but I just like, it was kind of in one ear, out the other. I was just like rejecting it in a lot of ways. Not fully, like there's still a lot of stuff that I took in and I still incorporate in my day-to-day life, but there's a lot of stuff that I'm finding, what's like, if we just talk about religion, what does my religion say about this particular issue? And I'd like go search it, and I remember, my mom actually taught me this, but it just, I couldn't see it. So that's what I mean. I'm at a different place in my life now than I was when I was growing up.
I think that exactly what you said was, it emphasizes what we've been saying. It's a journey. Like at that point in time, whilst you were growing up, probably you weren't ready to receive that information. You weren't on the same wavelength as where your mom was. Your mom had a specific journey in her point in life, and all she was trying to do was share, which is something that's it's nothing that it came up from a negative place.
No, it was all out of love.
Out of love. And in my household, it was mainly, my father was primarily, traveling a lot when I was growing up because of business. And so I remember one thing that also affected me whilst growing up was, so in the UAE, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what my knowledge is. In the UAE, whilst I was growing up, so Friday prayer, the imam of the mosque would draft, their what they were going to say right before the Friday prayer.
Yeah.
Al-khutbah. And that was unique to each mosque. So each imam had the freedom to preach what they were going to preach that day, or the lesson of the day, or of the week, more like it. And so whilst growing up, who was taking me to the mosque for Friday prayers was my uncle. And with my cousins, my first cousins from my dad's side. And so we would all go. One thing that I felt affected me in a negative way was that I was hearing a lot of كلمة عذاب, which basically is, like punishment. And when you're in a place of worship, that's supposed to be so. By the way, for me, the feeling I get when entering a mosque is so beautiful. It's like you feel like this cold air coming on, like
just a cool feeling.
It's just a cold feel, and it's like you feel so you feel like you're invincible in a way,
Yeah.
like nothing can touch you because it's so peaceful and you're all there for the same purpose. So it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So imagine as a kid walking into, a place of worship, and then all of a sudden you have, this figure who is technically, the tech you would, would be the most educated or
Yeah.
responsible in the, the preacher of the mosque would be the one that would showcase the lessons to you. And when all you hear is the word adab or punishment, it puts you off in the sense that you just feel that, okay, so I'm here, I'm trying to be a good person,
And all I'm
hearing is how I'm going to be punished.
Yeah.
So that actually set off a chain of events for me. I still went, but then that put me off going. So there was a very long period of my life where I stopped going.
Yeah.
Ever since then, the UAE
Yeah.
has changed its laws. It's now wahidohum, they're all unified. And so nowadays, across the places of worship in the UAE, there's a more, I think, accountability and more attention being drawn towards what
Yeah.
is being preached, because we live in such a different world to where we were
Yeah.
when we were growing
Yeah.
up, and that there is a sense of kind of understanding now. So when we go, it's that we again, we are taught lessons, but I feel now, and now
The
you can see that
approach.
I am back.
Yeah.
So I do obviously go to I actually go to attend the Friday prayers. I feel I'm there listening to the imam, and all I can
Yeah.
think is, where was this guy when I was growing up? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
like I feel like the conversation
Yeah,
is
and
completely different.
Definitely.
And so
And
that
I-
can affect you.
Of course, and I think like so much research shows, and just experience shows that fear-based education or fear-based anything really doesn't work. And
Yeah.
it's like fear-based faith is such a shallow form of faith. It means you're just like
It's like
Yeah.
imagine if you go and tell a kid, like, if you don't do this,
You're
this will
gonna-
happen.
yeah.
It. I feel like faith is something that you should go towards with love, not go
Yeah.
towards with fear in your hearts, because then that is what. So that's, I would say, at the core of my journey.
Yeah.
It was why I took so long to get to this good place, was because I was upset that I was being taught to fear my faith. And then I realized, and I changed that on my own, and that script, and now I'm going towards loving my faith.
See, that's where I wanted to, that's where my story, I think, fits in right here, is the fear idea. Now, as I said, my parents, there was, of course, fear, but it wasn't very harsh. Like, it was just, of course, you have to be accountable for what your actions are.
awareness of consequences.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I did have relatives, like you said, Saleh, that were more of the harsh and pushing it towards you kind of approach. And so I am more of an empathetic kind of a person. And really, fear does not work on me. Like, I think it's my worst enemy.
Yeah.
But that was the way that I had relatives constantly, like, at sleepovers, at gatherings, anything I would do, I remember I would get, if you don't do this right, you're going to get consequences. You're going to be punished. I don't know what. And that stuck with me, even
Yeah.
though my parents didn't. And which shows you how much outside influence can really affect your thoughts and your upbringing and all that.
Faith is one of the most, the purest core of everyone's, like Hassan said, whether it's religiously, whether it's spiritually, but it's such an important core to who we are as human
Yeah.
beings, that as kids, imagine being a sponge and listening to that kind of energy. It shakes you up. I'm a
Exactly.
32-year-old,
No.
and it shook me for my first 30 years of life.
And what, like, as the more I think about this subject, because this is really something that I've been working on in the past, I would say 3 to 4 weeks, where I remember, especially there's like several individuals that I remember, and they would even say it wasn't just only faith-based. Anything, their approach is, for example, if you don't help your mom, she's gonna get sick, and then something's gonna happen to her, and you're gonna regret it the entire. Yeah,
Oh my God.
it gets very dark very quickly.
Yeah.
And so looking back at it, I'm like, okay, that is really not the way to raise children. And that stuck with me till now. So for the past few years, I did struggle with prayer. Like you said, Saleh, I still fast. I still, follow the other pillars of Islam, but prayer is something I really struggled with, and I found myself like, oh, if I didn't pray yesterday, what's the point of praying today, for example? Or if I missed one prayer, what's the point? Because I'm already gonna be punished for that prayer. So God knows I'm just gonna, be punished for all the. I should just
Yeah.
it was fear based. Now, as I've said, is I'm seeking also therapy, and I've been talking to a professional about like this whole journey that I'm going on, and one thing that she told me was, and it's very smart. It's faith is faith. So there's three different types of faith approaches. One is fear, like we've said. Another one is bargaining. So you'll say, "Oh, I'll pray if you, I don't know, help me pass a test, or something like that,
Yeah.
or let me, And then the third is,
I'm guilty of that in planes.
I think we all are.
It's like, please, to make me land safely. I promise.
I think we all are. Like, I've gone through all three of these.
Yeah.
These different kind of approaches, and the third one being just complete gratitude. So you pray to thank Allah for the food that He puts on your plate, the roof over your head, the simple things in your everyday life. So when she brought that to my to my attention, I actually started saying, okay, you know what? I'm gonna pray to thank Allah, for example, for the simple things. I'll find one thing to thank Allah for, and that, or for every prayer, I'll find something. And that alone has really changed my approach into praying. And I don't just think, oh, I forgot one prayer. What's the point of praying the second one? You know what I mean? And that's really helped.
I think, something that comes out of like the fear-based approach, one thing I noticed just by observing people around me is sometimes I notice when it's, forced, as in, yalla, 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 come on, yalla, it's time to pray, go, pray. When I look at someone that's been kind of, again, I'd still call it fear-based because it's like they're afraid of time. And so when I observe that person, whoever is praying, he or she is not in the prayer, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like a task
They're not
list.
present.
They're not
Exactly.
present, which is, by the way, if you think about it, the complete opposite. You might as well not be, if that makes sense.
Exactly, yeah.
Because you're not there taking it in, or the whole point of prayer is being connecting. So if you're disconnected, then there's no point in doing it, which again, I think is, I'm guilty of this because, again, whilst growing up, this is what I sometimes, when I would go over to different people's houses or something, this is what I was being told.
Yeah.
And so that's what I found myself doing. But now, when it comes to me and why I had a journey with my faith is there were a lot of things, I was never afraid of questioning faith. And everyone knows this about me, my family and my friends. But I was one of those people, and I think people will relate, when something happens to you, like a drastic, unfair, life is unfair moment.
Yeah.
And anytime I would voice this, I would always get like blasphemous looks of how can you say that? But I would be upset at life, and I would be upset at faith, because I would tell myself, but I'm a good person.
Yeah.
And
Why am I?
And I am connected, or at least I thought I was. I am connected with my faith. So why am I being punished?
Yeah.
And these are not just being punished myself, but I would see other things happening, like an awful thing happening to someone else who is a good person and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's where, for me, it was just to kind of put it into a neatly done basket. I was deferring my prayers.
Yeah.
Not out of fear, like you had said, Shehlaa. For me, it was out of anger, because I felt like
if that good person.
Yeah, or I was like, well, life is unfair. So what if life is unfair, and if I'm connected with my faith, if someone else is connected with
Yeah.
their faith, and life is still unfair to me or to them, then I'm thinking, so then what's the point?
Yeah.
You might as well just not do it. And so that anger stayed with me throughout my teenage years. So I
Yeah.
kept on drifting out and in. But the nicest thing that you said, which is that third form of faith, which
Yeah.
is the gratitude one, that happened to me over a year ago. And there was just some major life changes,
Yeah.
and I was just grateful. And the first thing I thought about when that moment happened was, I need to pray.
Yeah.
And ever since that moment up until today, alhamdulillah, I
Yeah.
haven't skipped one.
Yeah.
I've gone back to my Friday prayers as well. Can't wait to go back once we're
Yeah.
allowed. But I do I think this is a forever thing? I don't know. I always think that when your journey, it's understood by faith that as individuals of, we're human beings at the end of the day. We are not
Yeah.
all knowledgeable, all knowing. And so I think as human beings, we're gonna drift. You can't say this
No.
is gonna be your journey forever.
And-
but the thing is,
yeah.
it's learning how to come back to faith. That's the enlightenment that you get.
Yeah.
See, I believe that. I believe that faith is a journey. You're not going to be just having one stable line, because I feel like that's unrealistic. Then there's no growth. I do believe that you have to go through ups and downs, just like in everything in life, to understand, to appreciate, and to even grow your strength and your faith more.
There are faiths out there, by the way, that do require you to go out into the world, to make your mistakes,
Yeah.
and then choose whether you want to come back or not.
Or not.
And it exactly goes with what exactly you're saying. It's that a whole idea of, yes, of course, drift away, do everything against what that faith would believe in, and then see, do you want to come back or not?
Yeah.
And if you choose not to, then it's your conscience.
Yeah.
If you choose to come back, it's your conscience. But I think that is something that we do more, like that particular faith that I know, it's just a one-time thing.
Yeah.
But I think that it's a journey, like you said.
See, I don't think that we should purposely say, okay, I'm going to purposely drift and go do the
No,
things that
Shehlaa,
I'm
you
not
can.
supposed to.
Shehlaa, just book a flight to Vegas and just go crazy.
But it is something that subconsciously we are going to drift and then get closer. And even things with small things such as the Quran, we've spoken before about how during Ramadan, for example, we weren't able to complete, and then you feel like it's a failure kind of thing. Even that alone, I used to not pick up the Quran because I would say, I can't finish it, or I would feel like it's such a big thing. And then something someone said to me recently was, even if you read, I think it was you, Saleh, even if you read one sentence a day and just really connect with that one sentence, that alone is better than not opening it and picking it up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really feel like, again, it's a journey. And
I feel like something that what you said is, if you I can't speak as a parent, and you guys can speak perhaps, because I want to ask also the question to you guys about how you envision, raising your child in terms of faith.
Yeah.
But something that I want people to keep in mind is to turn anything, if you feel like something is going to be coming out negatively, to just turn that into a positive. What do I mean? Instead of going to someone and being like, my God, have you read this, or have you read your chapter today? Have you done your prayer today? Whatever.
Yeah.
Appreciate the things that they're doing. So, praise them for the small
Yeah.
things that they're doing in their faith,
Yeah.
rather than pinpointing the things that they don't do. Because like you said, when you said, I didn't want to, or I would avoid reading just because I thought, I can't finish it.
Yeah.
If you pinpoint on someone's negatives towards their faith, it will start creating insecurities within themselves, where they're like, well, if I'm still being good, but I'm being told I'm not as good,
Yeah.
then why should I bother?
of
Yeah.
course.
So positive reinforcement works very much better than what
Negative
you guys
reinforcement,
think.
Yeah, and I think what you said, Saleh, earlier was, when you asked the question as a child, how do we know we are the right faith? Again, like I said, there's many different forms of faith. I know a lot of people who are not necessarily religious, but they have faith. They believe in a higher power of some sort. One thing that my mom used to always tell me is, all religions tell you to do something good. No religion points you towards bad. No religion will tell you to do something bad. So in my view, when it comes to which faith is the right faith, there is no answer really. It's all a matter of what you believe in and what aligns with your values and your beliefs. But at the end of the day, it's all different paths leading to the same destination. And I even remember this in some cartoon when I was a kid, or a movie from about the Prophet Muhammad, and he went to visit the king of a Christian city. I think Malik al-Habasha in Arabic. I don't know what it is in English. And when he met with him, he said, and please, my knowledge of Islamic history is really bad, so don't judge me. And if you do judge me, then listen to our previous episode, which we talked about judgment. But no. So what the king says to the prophet is, our religions, Christianity and Islam, are like two rays of light, separate but coming from the same source, which I thought was so beautiful, and that can apply to all religions essentially. And it's that's what I really believe, and that's what I want to instill in our daughter. I don't want her to feel that you are above or below any other person solely based on their religion or their faith. At the end of the day, we're all human. We all strive for the same things. We all want to be happy. We all want to be healthy. We all want to care for our families and success and all of that. And so as much there's more that unites us than separates us, and not to go into this whole thing of being holier than thou, but it's true. And that's why I really want to instill that in her, and
even have an open dialogue with her.
Exactly. And I don't want her to ever feel that she can't come to us about any quarrel or any if she has a crisis of faith. I don't want her to ever feel that she can't come to us and ask us.
That's one thing I really want to push and make sure that she feels comfortable. Again, I want, when I look at the way I want to raise her, or the way I want her upbringing to be like, I want it to be that way, that she can feel comfortable to come to her own home and feel that she can be who she is and can come to us with, whether it's a problem of faith or anything else, just to be able to come and say, look, I have an issue and I don't know how to solve it. Because that, I feel like, alone can really help a child and their upbringing, and to know that they are safe and they have people that can
are willing to listen.
And without no judgment and no animosity towards it.
And I think that's very important. You have to, I think with children or with anyone really, just to have an open dialogue and to know that even if we disagree, you're not going to be shunned, you're not going to be ostracized, you're not going to be judged. Even if your idea of practicing your faith is different than mine, it doesn't mean you're bad or I'm good, or the other way around. We're all different. And we see that, within Islam, there's different sects of the religion, just like in Christianity and just like in other religions. But you find people judge those, even within their own religion, so much harsher than they would someone from a different religion. They say, oh, you're from this sect, it means you're you're wrong, or you know what I mean? And I think that's such a horrific way of going about life, because you create divide amongst your own community.
I feel like sometimes it even happens within sects. So I've seen it before where it's just they sit there and, oh, you're doing this wrong and you're doing that, and they're harsher to those people of similar.
You know what I always feel like when people are have that mentality? I think about it, and I always say, aren't you supposed to be spending your time connecting rather
Exactly.
Aren't you supposed to actually, and my mom put this, we should be spending our time more about uniting than dividing. And unfortunately, that is what has happened. And believe it or not, that is one of the main reasons now, and I saw one of these articles online, one of the main reasons now that the newer generations are becoming less connected to their faith because they see it as a form of division,
Yeah.
which unfortunately defies the purpose. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
hopefully more parents think like the two of you and have an open dialogue. And it's not to say that we didn't have parents that didn't do that. We did. It's just different generations learn about different things, and we're more
Yeah.
aware of these things than
and
the
there's
what was
different
before.
approaches. Like sometimes I talk to my mom about the way she brought me up versus even my sister.
Yeah.
Let alone like the
Oh
rest
yeah.
of my sisters.
Oh yeah. There's a different approach even to generations
Yeah,
within the
like
same family.
exactly. So
And even if parents don't think this way, I think those who are listening, if you have people in your family or in your circle that think in a way that's, you know, very antiquated, very backwards, very close-minded, I would have the courage to speak up and to challenge those ideas. I used to go through the countless family gatherings where I would hear like just garbage being said, and like just like conversations that just were wrong and they just didn't make sense, or so they were so close-minded. And I found as I've gotten older, I found my voice, even though I may not be the most religious person, I don't know everything, but just based on, you know, you don't need to be religious to know normal or like basic values and
Yeah.
basic ideas of unity versus division. So really try to challenge those people and to speak up and to say, I'm not saying start an argument, but, you know, if someone says, oh, you know, this religion is bad, or this these kind of people are bad, or this thing is wrong,
yeah.
challenge them and say, oh, but why? Like, how do we
Yeah.
know that?
Exactly.
They're practicing what they think is right, just like we do. Instead of creating this divide, why don't we look for the
Yeah.
things that we have in common with them?
Yeah, and I would say exactly like Hassan says, is have the courage to open up the discussion, and maybe you'll learn a side and the way that, like the train of thought that has led them to that opinion and thought, and then they can see your way. And again, this can bring us up and bring us a lot closer, just by having a simple civil discussion.
Yeah.
And even if they don't, they're not, you know,
Yeah.
willing to see your side of things. At least you brought it up. At least you opened the conversation. And the more that people are encouraged to open that dialogue, the more we will have an open society.
Yeah, I think for a final note, to kind of wrap up the episode, from my
Yeah.
end, I just feel, you know, like you said, having an open dialogue, bringing up questions, raising awareness, for me, brought me closer to my faith and gave me such a solid core to the way that I practice many things in my life, and even the way I manage my own life. So I always say, do ask questions, do your research, do seek guidance, and do take your time. This is
Yeah.
not a race. You're going to be
No.
coming in and out like I have been, and you will eventually perhaps find yourself in a much more comfortable place. So
Yeah.
alhamdulillah, like in my instance, I am at a very good place at the moment when it comes to my faith, and I feel like it's led me to open my eyes on different things and aspects. And so I just encourage you all also to have kind of an open mind, open heart, and see where life takes you.
Exactly, and like Saleh said, for example, he is still on. He has found this comfortable place that he's in, whereas I'm still on the journey, and I feel like I still have a long way to go. So I think, like Saleh said, is we're all on this journey, and we're all going through this adventure, and don't feel like you have to get there as soon as possible, or you have to get there the quickest out of the rest of the people around you. Take your time and really try to understand and appreciate your faith and your relationship.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, I found this conversation very enlightening, and I really enjoyed it. But as always, we want this to be a two-way conversation. So first of all, thank you guys who have been listening to our episodes. We really appreciate it, and we really appreciate the feedback. So please continue to do so. And there's a few ways you can reach out to us. You can either email us on our email, which is letsallscream.podcast@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us on Instagram and Facebook at Let's All Scream. Thank you guys for listening. Please tune in next week for our next episode, and we look forward to having you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.